Well, hello. Welcome to this session today, discussing Uber's future in mobility and economy. I'm Mexi, and I'm joined by Mrs. Giovanna Desposito, General Manager for Southern Europe at Uber. Welcome, Ms. Desposito. So
Hello.
nice to have you with us at the Delphi Economic Forum.
Hi, Mary. Thank you very much for having me.
Now, I will go directly to the first question, and I would like to discuss with you a little bit the impact of the pandemic. So, as a world, the pandemic has actually led us to rethink the future of transportation, and it has led many cities to rethink their infrastructure, transforming parking and actually creating more space for cyclists. Now, we have seen that Uber is actually taking this moment as an opportunity to reduce our environmental impact. Can you walk us through momentum? Where are we now, and what does Uber look like post-pandemic?
Absolutely. Thank you very much for the question. It is, in my view, a fascinating topic that is rightly, right now, drawing a lot of attention. We are all seeing that beyond the immediate actions needed to address the health, economic, and social crisis brought by the pandemics, there is also this urge to be more deliberate on sustainability and make our cities more livable. And whilst we've all seen the pictures of the deer roaming in the street and the skies becoming blue again during the lockdown, and we're all saying, I want that again, I actually think that we have acquired a new awareness on something that is even more profound. I think that we have acquired this conscience of we are more fragile than we realize. We need to take care of ourselves, whether it's our physical and mental health or the air that we breathe. And we have also realized that it only works if it's a collective effort. And Uber does want to be at the forefront of that. So as soon as last September 2020, we announced this program and a global commitment to become a zero emissions mobility platform by 2040 across all 10,000 and more cities and 6 continents where we operate. Therefore committing to 100% of journeys taking place, whether it's in vehicles, public transit, or micromobility, in zero emissions vehicle. Now, in Europe, where policymakers are leading the way on electrification, we believe that we can get there better and faster. So our mantra is, we recover better. We recover in terms of our business, economic situations, working opportunities for drivers, and so on and so forth, better than before. And as Europe, we want to advance this program of electrification. And our commitment is that in 3 or 4 years, by the end of 2025, 50% of kilometers driven in aggregate across 7 European capitals, of which we have 2 in Southern Europe, in my region, Lisbon and Madrid, will be made in zero emission vehicles. And this is just the beginning. If cities, NGOs, ride-hailing companies like us, car makers, and charging operators all work together to create the right conditions, then we believe that ride-hailing could be electrified in any major European city within 5 years. And I would love for those 7 cities to actually be more than those 7 by 2025.
See electromobility as the future, right?
Absolutely. I don't think there's another way.
Thank you for this. Going to the issue of the mobility-related challenges of the future. Now, as someone said, that to bet against Uber is to bet against the future. So I would like to statement and ask you, what's the company's vision of mobility from the future, and in which areas do you see the greatest potential?
Yes, this is very much really linked to what we were discussing a moment ago. So, the current urban mobility model generates congestion and pollution. And the
Mm.
pandemic has only aggravated the problem since, sadly, but naturally in a way, we have seen more than before a return to private car usage, as people try and avoid, for safety reasons, more collective modes of transportation. Um, and this is,
So
of
you
course,
a
hello?
transition
Okay.
from an ownership sharing model, right?
Can you repeat that again?
So you should transition from an ownership model to a sharing type of model, right? And with some references to
Precisely. Absolutely, absolutely. And so what we see is, if there is a very high usage of private cars, more and more vehicles are in the streets, less space for pedestrians. The problems are only compounding. And so we want to somehow contribute to reducing that private usage of cars. Now, for citizens to leave their car at home, they must be offered alternatives, and that is our proposal. So our proposal is to offer the maximum of transport alternatives on demand through our application, whether it's taxis, private hire vehicles, scooters, motorcycles, bicycles, all of these as a complement to public transport to ensure that each citizen has an alternative that is viable, affordable, and sustainable to
Mhm.
reach their destination. So, in places like Italy, Portugal, or Spain, and many more, we've also integrated the public transport network or other
Mhm.
alternatives, such as scooters, for example, the ones that I mentioned before, into our app. So, public transport is also one of the several ways that we can have on the Uber platform to make the overall journey more efficient and, as I was saying before, more affordable and better for all of us, whether it's individuals or cities. And recently, we even announced that in several cities around the world, we are now offering our software to city or regions for the management of their own public transport networks. So the fact that the platform is a multimodal one doesn't need to mean that we own all of those platforms, all of those shared modes of transportation. We are very happy and indeed proactively offering integration of third parties into our app, as well as offering our software, as I was saying, to municipalities, to regions that are seeking for their own transport network to be more efficient and therefore more sustainable.
Thank you for that. I would like to focus a little bit more specifically on Southern Europe, and if you can give some examples in relation to Greece, for instance, where do you see major opportunities for expand growth, and where do you see risks or key obstacles?
Yes. So in Southern Europe, we have an incredible diversity of situations and contexts. So let's say that we don't get bored, and the number of opportunities as well as challenges that we have are fantastic for me to witness and to work with, because of course they also give opportunities for cross learning and pollination across the different markets. So I'll give you a couple of examples, and then absolutely let's talk more specifically about Greece. In the Southern Europe Uber region, we have, among others, Italy and Spain. Italy and Spain are right now our highest potential markets in the region size-wise. Okay, and they both represent big opportunities, but challenges as well. So in both countries, our effort has been and continues to be the integration, as I was mentioning before, of those different modes of transportation towards a unified operational model. To be a bit more specific, we are partnering in both countries with taxi operators alongside PHVs. PHVs is private hire vehicles. And we are also integrating macromobility for first mile and last mile solution, and in some cases, public transportation. Now, for this operational model to be successful and effective, there is, of course, a dependency on regulations, and for that reason, we are in constant dialogue with regulatory bodies, whether it's a national or regional level, so that together we work on the modernization of the sector, continue offering opportunities for the sector workers, and provide solutions that are, more and more meeting the needs of our riders, whether it's national, domestic riders, or the very big amount of international tourists that come to our region. One other example is Portugal. It's also in my region. Portugal has historically been our innovator country, and a benchmark not only in the region but in Europe and even globally. The ride sharing regulations in the country have been quite advanced and have allowed us to be ahead of most other markets in Europe and in some cases in the world when it comes to launching things such as green. Portugal was the first market where we had the green product, which is 100% electrical vehicle solution. It was one of the first countries in Europe where we launched our electric bikes, where we integrated public transport. And so it is a very virtuous example of where, in a kind of a very fruitful dialogue with regulators fosters innovations for the benefit of all involved. When it comes to Greece,
yes,
absolutely. So Greece has the same, regardless of the size, Greece has the same opportunities, and in some cases even more interesting than in my other markets in Southern Europe. It's a market that obviously has a huge influx of tourists, and so among an international tourist, Uber has a very high brand awareness and considerations, and therefore there is a fantastic opportunity there, and therefore the ambition is absolutely to follow in the same footsteps, of those markets that I was describing before. So here we already work with taxi drivers in Athens, and we just launched literally a very few days ago Thessaloniki. And the intention is, to expand more and more that partnership with the sector. And what are the enablers and to some extent the challenges, similar to what I was saying before. Let's continue having an open dialogue about how the taxi sector can somehow be modernized, and meet the requirements of riders coming into the countries and having certain expectations. Because through that modernization, then we can have a more fluid marketplace and therefore offer more opportunities.
Thank you, Giovanna. And there's a lot of potential for Uber in the future, but there is a lot of criticism, though. And I think I should mention this. I mean, Uber faced criticism over inadequate employment protections, free riding on conventional business, on the taxi industry, and building profit on data generated by Uber workers for free, the so-called data monetization. How do you respond to this criticism?
Yes, absolutely. So there are several elements there, right? So let me start perhaps from the top. Many of our critics believe that Uber and generally our gig economy, peers, have failed workers and drivers particularly by treating them as contractors, and and that we will do anything to avoid the cost of employee benefits like health insurance. And whilst that is somehow understandable that those beliefs are there, I don't think that the problem is posed in rightly, and I don't think it's accurate. We firmly believe that there is a third way. What do I mean by third way? So the problem normally it's posed as a trade-off between two kind of polarizing positions. On one side, there is the flexibility of independent workers that come with no protection whatsoever. And, yes, you have the flexibility, but you are left to your own device. And then on the other side, there is full employment. You have the benefits, you have the protection, you have the certainty. There's no flexibility in that. Now, if we pose the problem in these terms, we are not really advancing much. And why am I saying this? If the question is why we don't just treat drivers as employees, and to the argument that if we do so, this will make all drivers' problems vanish overnight. Whilst it seems like a reasonable assumption, it's one that, in my view, ignores reality a little bit, because if all drivers became employees, they will lose flexibility, which means for many of them to not be able to drive anymore. A lot of drivers on our platform are there because they need a flexible type of work. Some of them are students. Some of them are caring for the elderly. Some of them have children that are not at school all the time and also need care. Some of them have a startup on the side. There's a myriad of situations whereby they will not be able to commit to a full-time work schedule, and therefore they will be out of that opportunity. So that's one aspect. The other aspect is that, in truth, the marketplace overall will become less reliable. This will reduce riders, it will go in a negative spiral, and then will provide less opportunity for drivers again. Is there a better way to look at this? And we absolutely firmly believe that yes, there is a way. So our CEO, Dara, advocated last year in the United States and more recently in February 2021 in Europe that there is a third way. So we propose that gig economy companies be required to establish some benefit funds, for example. So, there should be a requirement, there could be a requirement for companies like us to provide benefit funds that can be put at disposal of the gig workers, so to speak, so that they can be used for the benefits that they want, whether it's health insurance or paid time off. And if you require all the companies in the gig economy to participate, workers can build up their benefits even if they switch between apps, and kind of build in a way that buffer. In the States, to give you an idea, had this been the law in all states, the United States of America, in all 50 states, Uber alone would have contributed $655 million to these benefit funds last year alone. In Europe, we are making similar asks and commitments. We are a bit more advanced already. So, for example, we have the AXA insurance already available in all EU countries, and through this insurance, we are already offering a portfolio of benefits, let's say, to our drivers. So we have medical insurance coverage, we have parental leave coverage, and so on and so forth. And we're absolutely open, to have the dialogue to make sure that we provide a good amount of protection whilst leaving the flexibility around the working hours.
It's important that we would like to invest in dialogue. So now I would like to bring it to the issue of regulation. I'm going to push for new regulation because there are many policymakers around the world. I think the need for updated policies and regulation in the area of employment, the area of transportation, in the area of environment. What is Uber's strategy along the regulatory front, and what do you think solutions should be?
Right. So we have conversations with policymakers in most or all markets where we operate, whether it is at national level or regional level or sometimes city level. Okay, the conversations would vary depending on the specific situation, aside from these global themes that we just commented. And typically those conversations will focus on two fronts. One front is how we make cities more livable together. And the second set is how we provide fair opportunities for citizens and for mobility workers. So on the first point, which is making the cities where we live more livable. This includes some of the themes that we mentioned before. So how do we together build an efficient ecosystem for multimodality that includes public transportation, that includes micromobility? We have data sharing for city planners active in a lot of the cities where we operate. So we have a platform that is called Movement, which effectively aggregates and gathers all the mobility data that we've been building over the years, and we put that for free at the disposal of the municipality planners that can use it for their own budgeting, their own designing of public transport, for knowing where there is highest congestion, when there is a need for parking space, etc., etc., etc. And we also partner with regulators on the green solutions. So we spoke before about electric vehicles and why such an obvious and immediate need. It does require a collective effort because there are challenges that you need to solve, such as how you make electric vehicles affordable in the first place, as a one-off purchase, but also challenges around the availability of charging infrastructure, whether it's overnight, near home, and so on and so forth. And so, for all of those themes, we do need to work with municipalities and regulators. Then there is the other bucket that I mentioned before.
Thank you very much. Our time is up, unfortunately. I wish we had more time to discuss all these very interesting issues and topics. I thank you a lot. Our discussion has been short but very constructive with outside policymakers, users of services, and the business sector. I thank you a lot. I'm very grateful. I wish you all the best in your future endeavors. Thank you indeed.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. Thank you. All the best. Bye.